A volatile week, but all the dips were buying opportunities. Don't be afraid, right? A lot of people, they see this volatility and it scares them out of the market. You know, at some point, $100 drop in the price of gold is not going to be very much. It already is not that much when you talk about 4,000. But wait till it's 10,000, right? Then $100 is an even smaller move, 1%. And, you know, the volatility in silver, I think it's all a positive. It's all a sign of a breakout, but it is keeping some investors who might otherwise buy on the sidelines while they watch as speculators as the market keeps going up and they're too afraid to come in. At some point, that fear will be replaced by greed. We're not there yet. All of the greed is still in Bitcoin. Now, eventually, that greed is going to turn into fear. And that's when the bottom is going to fall out of the crypto market. We're not even close to the bottom yet, right? We got a long way to go down, but we have a long way to go up in gold and silver. And, you know, as more and more people have confidence in gold and silver, they're going to lose confidence in Bitcoin and the rest of crypto. And
gold and silver had another strong week, despite extreme volatility. Gold gained 2.2% and held above $4,000. While silver rose 4.7% and stayed above $50. Schiff says $4,000 is now key support for gold and $50 for silver. Most buying is coming from Asia, while U.S. hours show heavy selling. He believes every dip is a buying opportunity before another major move higher. Crypto crashed hard, with Bitcoin breaking below $100,000 and altcoins falling even more. Schiff argues money is rotating out of high-risk assets and back into gold, boosting miners like GDX. He says U.S. economic weakness, rising yields, Fed confusion, inflation, and Trump's new tariff dividend promises all point to more money printing, ultimately bullish for gold and silver. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to Fine Metal for more updates.
A rate cut in December is no longer a sure thing. It's basically a coin toss at this point, based on a lot of comments made by FOMC members that they're not really sure, you know, what they're going to do with rates. And so that was hurting risk assets. But it's interesting, money flew into gold and silver, even though they're talking about not cutting rates. People think, oh, that should harm gold and silver because, you know, gold and silver want interest rate cuts. But because they may not cut rates, investors want safe havens, and that's gold and silver. And by the way, it doesn't matter to gold and silver if the Fed cuts rates or not. What matters is they're not raising rates, and they should. Interest rates are too low. They were too low before they were cut. They never should have been cut. And because they were cut, and because everybody knows the Fed's not going to hike, no matter how high inflation rises. In contrast, look at gold and silver stocks. The GDX was up 5% on the week, almost as much up as the NASDAQ was down. And the GDXJ almost up 5% as well. Now, of course, these gold and silver mining stocks would have been up a lot more without the losses from today and yesterday, right? And so it could have been a much bigger move. And I think it will be a much bigger move next week as the rotation out of risk continues. Because, yes, there's risk in gold mining stocks, but not nearly as much as there is in these tech stocks. And there's a lot more earnings behind the Trump administration. All they care about is making the economy look good until Trump leaves office. The last thing they want is the bubble to deflate while he's still there, right? And so they got to do whatever they can to blow as much air into this bubble. That's going to mean maximum pressure on the Fed to cut rates, which is why the Fed's going to cut rates. And when they get a new FOMC chairman in there, they're going to go even more. The Fed's going to go back to QE to prop up housing, to prop up the market. Maybe they'll think they can prop up Bitcoin. Who knows? I don't know if there's any way to get the air back in that bubble. There's probably too many holes. But since the president's family is all in on crypto, they're obviously going to try to do what they can with cheap money. And so all this is going to drive the dollar down. Surprised it hasn't already dropped. But it's going to drive gold and silver prices much, much higher. But I think what's the most significant about all of this volatility is that it's taking place above 4,000 for gold and above 50 for silver. That's what I've been saying. 50 is the support for silver. Now, it can trade below it, but that's really where the support is. That doesn't mean it can't trade 49 or even 48, because silver is inherently pretty volatile. And so it's hard to stop at a round number. But this is about the support. Gold, 4,000 is key support. And we've managed to go below it, but not by much. Gold never went below 3,900 after it went above 4,000. The lowest I saw was maybe 3,910 or 3,920. Silver did go below 50, but then it came soaring back. I mean, when silver almost hit a new high on Thursday night, gold was still maybe $200 away from a high. Gold got, less than 200, but because gold got back above 4,300, I think. But after today's sell-off, it's back below 4,100. But this is very constructive trading as far as I'm concerned. 4,000 is the new 3,000, just like 3,000 was the new 2,000. And silver, when silver was at 40, I said 40 was the new 30. And now it's almost like 50 is the new 40. Yes, silver did go below 40 a few times before it rocketed up to 50. And that's why it may go back below 50, especially when we're only 60 cents away. But I wouldn't wait. The point I want to make on these rebates is they're inflationary. They're good for gold. Where's the money going to come from so that these, tariff dividend checks don't bounce? Oh, and by the way, the very concept of a tariff dividend check shows you that the tariffs are all politics. They don't mean anything. And maybe Trump knows this. Who the hell knows what he knows? But if you're going to give people who you're tariffing back the tariffs, you've accomplished nothing, right? The purpose of the tariff is to make imports more expensive so that Americans don't buy as many imports. But then if you give those same consumers a check for a bunch of money, and now they have more money, well, now they can pay the higher prices of the imports. So the tariff dividends get used to buy imported goods. And so it negates the entire purpose for which the tariffs were imposed, because the tariff dividends run up the trade deficit. So the whole thing is nonsense. And that's another thing, that's good for gold when it exposes all of the nonsense in the Trump administration. Well, we had another positive week in precious metals, but it wasn't without a lot of volatility, especially over the past two trading sessions that saw wild swings in the price of both gold and silver. But despite those wild swings and today's big drop, gold still managed to gain 2.2% on the week, and silver rose 4.7% on the week. Most significantly, gold is above 4,000. It closed at about $4,000 or $4,080, and silver ended the week back above 50. But intra-week, on Thursday night, it got above 54. In fact, silver almost made a new record high. It was about 25 cents away. And that's when the volatility started. And the volatility all started in our time zone. And that's, interesting in and of itself. And there's a real strong fundamental story for the gold stocks. In fact, Barrick Gold came out with its earnings Monday, and over the first 3 days of the week, Barrick Gold was up 13 or 14% before pulling back with this, these violent, sell-offs in gold. But that highlights the powerful potential of the gold mining sector to earn money in this gold bull market. And so this is bullish for gold because it's going to bring more money into this sector. I think that today's sell-off was another buying opportunity for Schiff Gold customers to go to the Schiff Gold website on Friday, on Saturday, and even Sunday morning, because I expect another big run-up in gold and silver prices Sunday evening into Monday. Now, maybe it won't be sold off in the U.S. time zone. What I've managed to notice is that the big sell-offs happen later in the week, not earlier. So there's a good chance that we get a big run-up on Sunday night and then an even bigger run-up on Monday morning as Americans who got out of their silver and gold rush to get back in. So it's another great weekend buying opportunity at Schiff Gold to load up on gold and silver in particular. A lot of the buying is coming from Asia, right? They're buying gold. The selling and the speculating against gold is happening in our time zone. But on Thursday, we had gold up over 50 bucks in the evening. And then in the morning, it was down 50 bucks. Silver, which was up over $1 in the evening, was down over $1 in early morning New York trading. Then last night, silver again soared over $1. Gold was up over 50 bucks. And then near the open of our market, or just before, there was a huge sell-off, and gold dropped like $130, $140. Silver dropped over $1.50, not from the high, but went from up over $1 to down more than $1.50. So more than a $2.50 swing in the price of silver between the time U.S. markets closed and U.S. markets open. One of the reasons that I think gold gapped up or opened over $100, I don't know if it gapped up, but it closed up over $100 on Monday, which was great for the people who bought gold on Saturday, like I told you guys to, right? I did this video, or I did one last week, and I said buy over the weekend. So we had a $100 rally.